All right, let's go.
I guess it takes a second for it.
Yeah, because I started a little bit early.
I'm waiting for it.
All right, let me know when you're all set. Let's go. I look forward to this one. This should be fun.
It says still waiting. I guess I'll click when it's 1 p.m.
I don't know.
Okay.
Just let me know when you get it, and put a comment in. If you already see it, it's not quite 1 o'clock. It's right at it.
Now I read.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah.
All right, so it's the second day of February. It's February 2nd, and it is Wednesday. Isn't it Wednesday?
Yes, Wednesday.
Wednesday, February the 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I have trouble remembering that these days. All right, so hello, and as always, welcome back to another 5K tennis discussion. Today is Wednesday, February the 2nd. A rainy day here in southern Alabama. Generally, today we would be at another location, but Carla, you know us, we kind of breathe tennis, so it would only be fitting if we still were able to share it with you today. So we're going to talk briefly today about some tips, some overall tips when it comes to teaching tennis, whether it's from the coaching standpoint or maybe something that from the player standpoint will be of assistance as well, okay? Oddly enough, when Carla and I were preparing this today, we had a couple of people ask us, you guys have coached for a while, and then what keeps you going? How do you continue to I guess, be more successful, right?
Right.
And I think a lot of times when we get asked that question, it's humbling, because if someone asks you that question, then I think they think that you're a successful coach. And I wanna define, before we start this discussion, what the definition of a successful coach is. It's not about money, for sure. That you obviously know we're not rich by any way, shape, or form. I think being a successful coach is being able to take care of your family, and at the same time being able to share your passion or your love for the game or whatever it is in life. A lot of metaphors we can use for this video. With other people, namely anyone that wants to learn anything. Doesn't matter age, size, shape, gender bias, stereotype, doesn't matter. So I think that's the definition of a successful coach, right?
Right.
Okay. So what we're going to do, and coincidentally, we were preparing this information today, and we started seeing some stuff about the NFL coach. I guess Brian Flores, the Miami Dolphins coach, I guess, is suing the Giants, the Broncos, and I forget the other team because of some coaching stuff. We're not going to get into that type of thing here today. This is going to be about what young aspiring coaches, or any coach that's wanting to coach. We have a lot of junior students that we've taught since we've known each other, and now they're turning 25 years old and are wanting to coach, and they're.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I don't think a successful coach also necessarily means that you have the number one person in the world, or you have someone like Serena who won many slams. I think a successful coach is someone that can inspire, someone at a young age to continue to do something positive and become, a responsible adult. That's what I think a successful coach is. Someone that can guide you, or someone that was, not in the right path, and they got you in the right path. Also, a successful coach doesn't have to be the best tennis coach. You know what I mean? Just someone that you were able to talk to and maybe change your life. That's what I think a successful coach is. I think a lot of our viewers are going to think, because I see that Michael Walker asked me if Vic Braden was a successful coach.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say so. But what I'm
Very
trying to
much
say,
so.
just because you coach Djokovic, that doesn't make you a successful coach. Maybe you just had that one student that worked for you and they became really good. A successful coach is someone that has helped many that have come through their path.
Yeah, Vic Braden, by the way, there was a paperback book, and I know it was hardback as well, and he was on the cover holding his racket, and I think it was Vic Braden teaching kids tennis. You remember my father bought like 13 copies of that book, and sent them to my kids like twice. He got them off of like Amazon or wherever. But yes, Vic Braden definitely was a successful coach. I think he passed away 5 years ago, something like that. Starting off the conversation, Carla and I don't really, I don't think we think we're the best coaches in the world. I think we both agree there's a much better coaches than we are.
Yeah.
And we're just lucky to be a part of sharing the game with others. Now, I think it's safe to say that the turnover rate today in 2022 is very high. At the club level, at the pro level, at the beginner level, at the high school level, the turnover rate is high, and we have to ask ourselves, why is that? And we can all give our examples, whether it's, the people at the club didn't like me, or I didn't fit in at the high school, or whatever it is. We have to step back and ask ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Tennis is an international language, and if you approach it that way with humility, understanding that anyone that is out there wanting to learn the game or to play the game or is a fan of the game are basically, except a few extraneous variables, are basically like-minded as yourself is, right? It's one of the few things in life you'll find this. Someone with a tennis racket tends to get along very well with someone else with a tennis racket, unless in the heat of battle, unless they're playing against one another or coaching against one another.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Agree.
So let's talk about some things with that said that are very important in terms of teaching tennis, especially from two people that really started coaching from, yes, we were born into the game, yes, our both of our fathers coached, yes, we had multiple coaches, but we started where we stand today for really kind of nothing.
I think you were more born into the game.
Yeah.
My father was 30 when he discovered tennis, so he was late into the game. I mean, I've heard you mention your grandfather, your father. Tennis wasn't, my grandfather had no clue about tennis, and neither did on the other side. My dad discovered it when he came to the United States. I think he moved to Canada, then to New York. He discovered tennis in his late 30s. He used to play a lot of soccer. And then he introduced me to the game. He tried to introduce me to the game at a young age like you, but I wasn't interested in tennis until I turned 11 is when I became interested. And I wasn't interested in coaching, I'll tell you the truth, not till I really met you.
That's how we met. That's how we met. So Carla was going through a certification program, and I was part of this, and she found me. I was close to her to help mentor her or to tutor her. Anyway, and here we are. Anyway, but back to where you were saying.
Yeah. So I don't think I was born into the game. I learned it. It took. I was 11. That's pretty late when you start a sport. That's considered late in tennis. 11.
Agreed.
11 is late. So, but anyways, go ahead.
Well, how does it? We're not going to talk about this, but you said you started at 11. We know this. How does it feel to have a 12-year-old daughter now? And we have Gabriella, who's our 9-year-old daughter, is behind us. She's our executive producer, making sure my cell phone doesn't cut off. So shout out to you. Let's go. But how does it feel to have a 12-year-old daughter that's played for 6 years already? When you started at 11. So she's a year older than you and has played for 5 years longer than you did. It's kind of humbling in a way.
I enjoy seeing that. I don't remember 11 very well, but my dad does tell me that I think she's a lot stronger than me. Her serve is definitely better than mine. I think I was a better player at her age. I think she has a long way to go. I was a better player probably because my dad was a lot more strict than I was on her.
No doubt.
And he made me play against adults, which helped. Not only that, the difference between Alabama and New York is that in New York there were so many kids at that time playing tennis. You could play with just anybody every day.
I think you see a lot of that in Florida.
Where here it's
Florida
a little bit
California
tougher.
Today.
Here it's a little bit tougher. But over there I always had an opportunity to hit with someone. And they had programs like NYJTL that would help out kids who couldn't afford it. I remember my dad paying $25 and I was able to play like all over all the boroughs and stuff, and just play tournaments and get a lot of experience. So I got a lot of match experience where she doesn't have that yet. I had way more under my belt at her age than she does right now. But I love seeing, all my kids play. I think it's great. Like I watched, Gabby play at 9 and like she's got a head start. And little Justin definitely has a head start. 6 years old. Wow.
It's always nice to see your 6-year-old hitting one-handed backhands from the baseline with regular balls. All right, so here's something that's paramount again, and there's thousands of better coaches than us, but we get asked this question a lot. You guys tend to continue to grow, and how after all these years. Number one, Carla, every time we meet a new student, we tell them we have 3 rules. Okay? What are those 3 rules? Rule number 1, stay positive. Rule number 2, work hard and within your limits. In other words, don't hurt yourself. Let's not push the envelope too far, but let's work as hard as physically can without risks. And number 3, stay positive. The same rule as number 1. Why Carla is and tennis as well as everything in life, especially now in 2022. Why is staying positive so important? And what are some examples of maybe people that haven't stayed positive that are no longer around, or maybe coaches that you've met that were young coaches but got in a little snub with their head pro when they were an assistant pro at a country club and now they no longer coach? What are some ways that being positive is such a key example?
Well, I think when you tell a student stay positive, first of all, they pick one of the most complicated sports to learn. You know, it's so technical, just part of like golf, you know. Not anybody can go just grab a racket and automatically hit a forehand and a backhand. There's so many shots in tennis that you have to learn, which makes it more complicated. If you don't stay positive, you quit early or you get down on yourself. If you're not positive, you won't soak up all the information that is being given to you. Staying positive also gives you patience, you know? Patience to understand that, hey, it takes time to learn. Positive is the key in tennis, especially being a mental sport. You know, that's the other thing, right? How many times have we watched pros, they didn't stay positive and they crash and they choke a match away, right? That's an example of why you should stay positive. Easier said than done, of course.
Yeah, and look, I'm an expert at getting upset at times, whether it's on the court, whether it's off the court, whether it's at a coach or whether it's a juniors. We're human beings. We wouldn't have the emotion if it wasn't possible to attain the emotion, right? It's like sometimes you teach a student and they get so down on themselves because they're playing a practice match against Carla or myself and they double fault a few times or they hit a couple of unforced errors. And they get so down on themselves and it starts to get into their practice session. I always tell them, look, there wouldn't be a category that's called unforced errors, or there wouldn't be a category that's called double faults if you weren't expected to get them. And furthermore, if you're serving at 75% first serve percentage, you're doing great. Hold on real quick.
Jose P asks, what's the most difficult thing to coach beginners?
The serve.
I was going to say the same thing.
The serve. And look, that's and Jose P said that.
Yes.
Remember that because we have a whole section to that, and we'll dedicate it to you when it comes around. Remind me when I get it. It's written here, and we're on the same brainwave for sure, right? Great comment, and we're going to get into that shortly. This is a very big reason why some players finally give up. And by the way, we have a student currently, we won't mention any names obviously, that came to us because they were advised that there was nothing else that they could teach them in the game. They just would never get it. And maybe we're 3 months later or 4 months later, she's actually playing points.
I think that's, it's sad when you hear a student tell you, this coach told me that they can no longer teach me anything.
Yeah.
I say, wow, that's your typical lazy coach. They just want the easy students.
Yeah, the easy students that they don't have to
break
work
down
with.
everything.
And again, never getting into pointing fingers at anyone or an entity, but this is a pretty well-known place. And this was told to us by not only the parent, but the student and someone else that was with her in the semi-private lesson.
Shame on that.
Tough deal.
Shame
on the coach for sure. Okay, Carla just mentioned some reasons of staying positive. Has anyone ever found themselves mad at something or down on something, and because of what they did when they were down, they regret doing in the first place?
I think all of us have been there.
All of us. It's a human reaction. Yeah. We can't bet 1,000 on staying positive, but strive for as high as a percentage, as high of a first serve positivity percentage as possible, and better things will happen. You can't always stay positive. Don't smash your racket. Okay, earn your students' respect. Earn the parents' respect if there's a parent around. Don't be scared to get in their face a little bit. Kids, tennis players, beginners, whether they've been around the game, they're not there for you to just feed them a tennis ball and say, great job. They're there because, yes, maybe that's part of the job description, but you need to push. You need to motivate within physically acceptable limitations. No injuries, obviously, but no matter who it is, you can't be scared to assume leadership. That's why you're there. What are your thoughts?
I'll give you an example. Before I met Justin, I did coach in a few places, or one place, and then I tried to get another coaching job. I really wasn't into coaching at that time, though. And I remember my first test was a whole bunch of little kids, and I was trying to push them and correct things that I saw wrong because I felt like they were playing around. And the guy pulled me aside and he said, "We don't need you doing that. Just feed them balls. They're little kids." And that's when I thought, I don't really like coaching, because I can't be the type to just feed a ball.
You thought you were being a babysitter.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't do that. And they were telling me the parents are watching. Well, when we teach little kids now, right, I am tough on them. I mean, I do play fun games with them, but at the same time, if they're not listening or they're not doing something right, I do show them, and if the parent doesn't like it, then I say too bad.
It's tough.
Too bad because I'm not there to babysit your kid. And if they just want to waste time, I'd rather you take them somewhere where they're gonna go waste time.
Yeah. For instance, and I didn't ask this child's father to say this, and surely someone wouldn't be aggravated. But there's a young man. He's a 12-year-old. His name's Anders, and we saw this young man playing, and he was such a fine young little player. And Carla and I made it a point that we were going to make his first lesson extremely difficult, like to see if he would get upset. And the amount of respect that I think that we attained from him at the same point in time, the amount of respect that we have for him, I think it made it much better of a relationship. Not because, yeah, good job, you good job, but it's because we were like, come on, we can correct this little thing. We can be a little more aggressive here. I think sometimes if you're just yourself, if you just be yourself, and you are just the competitor that you are, or otherwise, why would you be coaching in the first place? I think if you're just yourself, it's easier.
I agree. I feel like a lot of times, many coaches, and I'll read your comment, Jose P. Many coaches, they want to please the parents. They don't want to hurt their feelings. We hear a lot, my kid's really good, this and that. And I'm sorry, maybe I'm too blunt, but if I see something that's just bad, that does not work, or a stroke that's ugly, I will say it. I will say it because I feel like, that's our duty, to be honest. I mean, I'm not making a lot of money, and I want to make a kid better. I'm not trying to teach somebody that sucks and keeps sucking and keeps sucking. I want to see them improve. That's the reward that we get. I was telling my husband, I said, this little girl came to us, just a few weeks ago, and I could see the big improvement in her already, and that makes me feel good.
Speaking of Helen,
it makes me feel bad when I see a student not improve. I had a student last week that I'm like, what have you been doing? I told her, I was like,
she went
it's
backwards,
like you can't
right?
even hit a ball. It's disappointing. And so I like to be honest, like I tell them, I said, I really don't care if the parents like me or not. I would think that they want to pay us because they want their kids to improve, right? That is the key. Jose P said, I had a coach that was an amazing player. He was a top junior in Serbia, even played with Djokovic and Krajinovic. But he had trouble teaching me teaching someone with a low skill like me. There's the other thing. You have all these great players, right? There are so many great players out there, but that doesn't mean they're a good coach. Sometimes they can't translate what they've learned into a student that's just starting out or needs help, a recreational player. There's so many coaches like that. I remember my dad getting me coaches that were really solid players, but they could not translate whatever they learned to me. That's normal. But they will become a good coach. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. I would say the first time I taught a kid, it was probably the worst lesson. I probably didn't.
I know the feeling. I really do. I know the
There's
feeling.
some lessons when I started, I was like, what did I just say?
Yeah, like
did
what?
I lose this person?
Yeah, I know the feeling. Yeah.
So it's just like being a teacher. Like the
feeling,
first
yeah.
time I had to teach Spanish class, I'm scratching my head like, man, I felt like I sounded stupid or something.
Yeah,
like
right.
I wasn't. I wasn't teaching them the right way. So yeah. That's
So in the coaching world, when we're kind of green, we're a green coach. I mean, that's the terminology. You're green, so you played it, and it's your passion.
Think you can teach it,
but
it takes time.
You're a 21, 22, 23. For me, a little bit older. Long time junior tennis player, and you have this cocky attitude. And then you teach your first lesson at a place where you have an audience and it matters. And whether you have your coaching certification or not, which is a good thing to have, by the way, it opens some doors and it shows that you're responsible and are willing to go the extra mile. But ultimately, nothing substitutes breaking the cherry to just jump in and do it. And it's like public speaking for the first time. But the old saying, and tennis coaching, and again, your job as a coach is to sell tennis lessons. I don't care what anybody says or how you massage that. Your job is to sell tennis lessons. And time again, we see pros or coaches at different clubs that will find the farthest court away in the woods, for crying out loud, and coach as to approach the lazy way out, potentially, so no one is seeing them because they're getting paid.
Which I don't understand that whole concept. I don't know why.
We want to be seen. We want to be vocal. We want to be there.
Well, when we first came to the club where we're at Mirror Lake, a lot of people told us, the coaches always use those.
Used to coach in the woods.
I said, and I told one lady, I said, that is the dumbest thing I've
ever
heard. I was like, don't you want to be seen?
Yeah.
You got to sell lessons.
You got to sell yourself,
man. Being seen is the key. Not only that, if you're seen, that means that you are important. That means that you are part of the club. That means that you are the club.
Exactly.
Why would you hide to do your lessons? Don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, your job as a coach is to sell yourself and to build players. If not to look, a champion is a diamond in the rough, right? To be a top player in the world is like a 1 in 10 billion chance. But you have to be willing to think that you can do and produce that type of lightning strike, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's how you should approach every lesson that you take, whether it's a 4-year-old and you're teaching ups and downs or footwork, just tossing them the ball, getting them to catch it. Wherever you are, your job as a coach is to be a damn rock star. And I don't care who or where you are, if you want to be successful as a coach and to grow and as a coach in this game, and not much has changed in the sport in a couple hundred years. Some rackets and strings, whatever. But the moral of the story is the same. It's an international language. It's a small world, and people talk within it. Don't act like someone that you are not. Don't say that you are so great and not, because what will occur is when that big session happens and you've got a whole club of people, or you have a whole audience of people, or you're talking to a bunch of kids, and it's at that point right there you realize how green or how ready that you are. And the only way that you can find yourself ready to get through that without worrying too much about it is to be positive, be patient, be yourself.
Be patient is the key. Look, lately we've been teaching a lot of little kids, right?
Yeah.
And I can tell you that I think all the coaches, they have a really hard time with the little ones, because you really have to have a lot of patience. They get bored quickly. Their attention span is short. You have to make it fun for them. And I know that, and I think that in my head, but I also think if I can get one of these 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds and have them get better and watch them at 10, 12, 16, and then watch them go off to college, I can say, wow, I did that. I helped that kid out.
Yeah.
I helped that kid out,
That's your successful paycheck.
Yes.
As long as you had enough gas to get in your car on the way home, and as long as you have a tennis racket that's strung, and as long as you fed your kids, that's your bonus paycheck.
William Spencer says, Sub-Zero looks like he's been watching replays of Gilles Simon versus Lucas Pouille match from yesterday. For some reason, my little guy is tired.
Can they see him?
Yeah, he is tired. He's white.
Okay, and I'm not going to touch long on this because, look, we all have reasons to skate around this in the world in which we live. Everything is much more expensive. We have potentially World War III right now brewing in Eastern Europe. Won't get into that. But I think it's important that coaches these days especially, I think it's important for the coach to at least somewhat emulate fitness. Look, I'm not saying I'm the fittest guy in the world. I like my bacon sometimes. I stop off at IHOP at night sometimes and order like 3,000 calories of biscuits and gravy. I eat some hash browns every once in a while. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but But I think it's important what you're saying. You know, I don't remember any of my coaches
being 300 pounds.
No, my dad would make sure. I remember I had one coach that he was like 80 years old, just like your coach, but he was
skinny and thin.
He was skinny. I think he was Canadian as well.
Yeah,
he was skinny, thin, white hair. His name was Bob. I remember him. And then I had another coach named Stephen Carberry in New York, and he was in shape and he could play the game. I had a Russian coach. He was in shape. He could play the game. All my coaches that I remember, I had one guy that was a Marine that used to hit me with tennis balls. But they were all in shape. And sometimes I go to these clubs and I look at these coaches. They're older. Nothing wrong with being older. One day we're going to be older.
Fair enough.
But they're not in shape. They look like they can't move. They're feeding balls.
They can't even bend over to pick up the ball.
I'm like, what's wrong with this picture? You're promoting tennis. You're promoting fitness. But yet you don't look like you can do anything.
Yeah, so I won't spend a lot of time here because, look, life is tough. Time is fleeting. Everything's getting more expensive. Wars are brewing. And we're still trying to play the game of tennis. But if you are way out of shape and you're feeding balls, and then you make the kids pick them up, and you yourself can't even kind of walk to, I think you should think about maybe doing a little bit something differently and not charging the rates of some of these $120 an hour. I think it's important. I'll leave it at this because I don't want to make anybody upset.
The reason why Patrick sells it, because he looks it.
Patrick Moratzoglu,
yes. He sells it because he looks
exactly.
it.
Exactly. And Patrick Moratzoglu is another example of this, and I've always said this. You don't have to be the best tennis player to be the best coach. You don't have to be the best coach in the NFL that have played football. Sometimes the best coaches are actually the guys that maybe never were that great, but they studied and they still had the fight. And they brought it to the tactical and information side of things. Hence why people like Roger Federer, you're not going to see them as a coach. The list goes on. Anyway, remember though to try to understand that it's the young students, if they're going to look up to you, or any student for that matter, if you look like a clown in terms of being like a blimp, they might not respect you as much. So just remember that. Passion. Carla, do you think that when we wake up, do we think that we're going to work?
No. I mean, there's a few lessons, yes. I hate to say that. I'm being honest. Let's be honest.
A few lessons are like
There's a few lessons that and those lessons, I asked the student, I say, why do you come here? If you don't want to pay attention, why don't you just tell your parents?
And we ask those questions.
And I tell them that, I said, why don't you just tell them that you don't want to be here? Because it makes my job, I said, harder to teach you.
And we're not
and I'm not there to babysit. And that's why I think of those lessons as a job. Because if I'm babysitting you, then it becomes a job. But if I'm teaching you, then I'm teaching you something I'm passionate about. And there's only a couple, very few, because we get really good students, and they stick with us, I think,
Yeah, and that's respectable. Look, we have students, and I think of them. I hate to say it regarding my own kids, but I think of them when I see them and when I'm around them, that I think of them no differently as I would Gabriella, Liliana, Jonathan, Christopher, Justin Jr., or my own wife. Like, I'll throw Helen out there again. I just throw that because she was just on my mind because her name was written here. Because I'll have to tag her because we mentioned her name, and I know kids like to see that. That's why I wrote the time, remind me. But you sit there and you see this young entity that is putting everything in their power into what you are telling them. And to see them get better.
Oh yeah, it makes me smile. Like yesterday I taught Kara, and I've been working on her backhand and the volleys, because I feel like that is where she lacks, she needs work there. And when we started playing the points, I smiled, even though she beat me in the point, I had to smile.
Until the vibrator comment. Okay, so kids, never mind. We will bring that up here. We're not here. Okay.
Not here.
Wait.
Yeah, I'll make sure that you know what a dampener is.
A dampener. Don't call a vibration dampener for your strings a vibrator, because the girls all around you they'll like, what?
Yeah, but anyways, when
a vibrator.
Yeah, that was funny. When Kara passed me with the backhand shot that we were working on, cross court short backhand, I smiled. When she got her volleys, I smiled, even though she won the point. She was probably all cocky, walking back like, yeah, I got this. But I smiled inside because I said, okay, we just worked on that and she did it.
Yep.
So it makes me smile. Like if I see a student doing something that we taught them and they're getting better at it, makes me smile.
Exactly. All right, having passion. Passion isn't something you learn. Passion is not something that you study about and attain. Passion is what you are passionate about. It is through and through. I can't over or understate the importance of passion. If the questions that we get a lot are, how do you guys continue to seemingly get busier and busier? Most people just stagnate or tend to, okay, I can't afford to do this anymore.
Word of mouth for us.
Word of mouth, exactly. Word of mouth, and word of mouth. And how in the damn hell can it be word of mouth if especially when you're paying money to do so? In other words, parents or the student, how can there be word of mouth if it's not something they haven't experienced before? Don't be a young coach and want to not be yourself and to act like something that you are not. Don't be that coach that will feed balls and just talk. Give your students something to strive for. Reward your students, by the way. Carla and I will do things like we'll do a drill, and if you need it, I'll string your next racket for free. I'll give you your next lesson for free.
Yeah.
I'll let you sit in on the podcast if you want to.
I've got 3 little boys. They're 3, 4, and 6. One of the 6-year-old boys knows 4 languages, by the way.
4 languages?
He knows 4 languages.
Hello?
He's
he's like what? He's like 6. He's
he
6
knows
of those
Spanish,
4 languages.
he knows English, he knows Mandarin, and he knows French.
Kids rocking.
Okay, so I told him they were competitive. You know, the 3-year-old is still not quite there because he's 3. He's a baby. You know, he's having fun, so I don't push him as much.
He's a beast.
But, you know, I told him, I was like, if we do this competition, I said, whoever wins, I said, I'll get you something you like. And he said, a little car. And I said, okay. The older brother won, but I'm getting them all a little car. You know, I'm going to bring them 3 Matchbox cars, you know?
Exactly.
Just to reward them, you know. Rewarding is important. My dad used to say, you do really good, I'll get you a slushie. You know, the Snoopy things?
Oh, yeah. Circle K. Well,
my dad promised me if I won a tournament, he'd take me to a water park. You never did that, by the way. I always remind you about that. I won the tournament. You never did. You never took me. I forgot what the name of the water park was, but it was in New York a long time ago. But rewarding is very important. Let me read a few comments here. William Spencer says, Patrick, coaching session. Now hit a forehand. Nice. Now get to those balls while I tell the female journalist how much I coached Serena from the stands.
There you go. That's funny.
SD Tennis says, Justin and Carla are very passionate teachers, but not afraid to jump in there and push you to the limit also. Find that thin line and ride it.
Yeah.
William Spencer says, but what if I don't have a dampener, but I have a cupboard full of vibro?
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah. There was a couple beginners we were teaching, and then there was a relatively polished junior player we were teaching at the same time. And one of them I strung a racket for, and the dampener that they put on there, they didn't put it on right, it popped off. And we were hitting with the girl, and
no, that wasn't how it happened.
Well, anyway, he said, "Hey, have you seen my vibrator?" And the girl is like right here, and she's like, "What?" And she had no idea. She just heard, "Have you seen my vibrator?" And then the naive, the young, dumbfounded look on the boy's face, still not understanding what he said.
No, and he says, "No, I think I need the."
I think I need my vibrator, and we're like, Like, you mean dampener? Oh, vibration dampener. He's like, I want my vibrator, like 3 times, and still had no idea because he's like young, so he didn't know the implication of the word. So he's like, where's my vibrator? My vibrator.
I don't know if 16 is young.
Good point. 16. Good point, though.
But he was serious. Like, he had no clue. No clue.
Yeah.
No, he thought he was saying the right name, and I never corrected him.
Funny. Okay, be passionate. When you're a coach and you look at some of these coaches in professional sports, they're making $10 million a year because they're good motivators. They're good leaders. They recruit. They break bread with their players. They're one of the crew. We always tell our students, no disrespect to parents or other coaches out there, but we always ask our students to please not call us sir or ma'am. And yes, I would get in my kids, you better to a teacher or whatever, but when we're out there training you in your face, if you're getting disciplined and told to move and all this and sweating bullets, and you still have to remember saying, sir, just say whatever. In other words, we're not going to be upset if you don't call us We just try to level the playing field. Like, we're one of you. We've been there. Let's work together. Right?
Oh, the sun's out.
Okay. A couple other things, and I think we'll cover this humility. If you want to have the word of mouth to be on your side, be humble. Don't show up in the latest gear and drive up in the newest car. Tennis coaches are not deep pocketed. They do it like school teachers. They do it because of the reward from watching kids grow. Be yourself, be humble, because ultimately that's your job. Nothing more, nothing less. Be humble, work hard, be humble, work hard, keep your head down. Yes, we show signs of weakness at times. Yes, we get flustered. Yes, we coach 10 hours a day. And yes, sometimes at the end of the day, we might be a little more terse than we would be around lunchtime. But be humble. You are just grateful to be where you are. You're grateful to be teaching whatever child is in front of you, because you have an opportunity to make a lifetime impact on a young mind. The tabula rasa, the blank slate, the psychological blank spot that you have an opportunity to fill and imprint for the rest of their life. And I think that's really, really, really important. Tennis is extremely difficult. It looks easier said than done. Okay, I watch these people on TV. I can go out and whack a forehand. You get out there, you can't even come close. Understand as coaches that you're not going to have a student and they're not going to be a tournament player in a week.
No, it takes a lot of time. That's why, every time I tell students, I was like, when you come out here and you do a lesson, I was like, make sure you practice. Make sure that you're not only just taking a lesson, because you're not going to get better just with the lesson. You have to put whatever you worked on every single day. Every single day. I tell my kids, do you think mom plays tennis the way she does because she just did her lesson? No, I put hours and hours and hours, and I can remember my dad taking me, wake up early, go train, go eat lunch, go back, take a nap, go back. That was my life, And kids, some of these 16, 17-year-olds, they wonder why they can't beat me, because you haven't put enough hours into it. It's hours. To make a champion, to make a decent player requires hours. Those kids that are playing Division I college, they spend hours and hours on the court. If you don't pay your dues, you will not get better.
If you don't do it, someone else will. I can promise you that. More than likely now they're going to be coming out of Eastern Europe where they have to better themselves by hitting out of bombed out swimming pools like a lot of the Serbian players. Ultimately, the silver spoon doesn't work very well, and being the best in this sport, there's an old saying, tennis is an empty bucket. It takes a full bucket to be successful. If I have a pocket full of pebbles and I throw in a pebble in that bucket every single day, eventually that bucket will fill up. I have to do it. In other words, every pebble is a practice session. I need that bucket to fill up. Now it's up to me as a coach to make sure I'm keeping every pebble a valuable pebble. I can't afford to go teach this kid and not let a pebble go in the bucket, because if I teach bad habits like Carla, and we're going to not spend a lot of time on this, but we have so many kids that come to us almost all the time, almost all the new students we have. They all come up on their first lesson, and they're hitting backhand volleys at the net with two hands on the racket. And they can really play the game from the baseline, but you bring them to the net, they have two hands on the racket. And number two, they are serving with a forehand grip, semi-western. In other words, they're lollipopping the ball. So someone out there has taken thousands of parents' money only to still have them very much a beginner. And I think that's wrong, and I won't get into that here. But it happens. People teach them that lollipop serve so they get it in play, and they can say, good job. Screw off with that. That's not good. I'm not going to get mad about it. I've done that enough. But it's wrong. It's wrong to teach kids. I get it if you're just trying to get them to make contact when they're very young. I get it. But to have a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old on a high school tennis team to be volleying at the net with a two-handed backhand and then serving with a forehand grip, there's no excuses for that. I'm sorry. I don't care what certification you have. You deserve to have that stripped with that. Just saying. I won't get into that. Don't be scared to get in your students' face a little bit, not unprofessionally, obviously, but don't be scared to say that was a bad practice. Don't be scared to say you could have done better. Don't be scared to say, let's do that again.
Okay? I agree.
At the same time, be ready to do that with them. Don't be a coach that tells them to do this but aren't willing to do it with them, at least to a certain degree. And if you are past the age of being able to do that in terms of as a head coach or whatever, have an assistant that might be able to come out to some of those type of situations and have someone to do that with them. That way they kind of understand that it's not just them that you're asking to do that. The other people have done that, and just show them, right? Because sometimes it's good to play with others that are much better than everybody else. Okay. That's it for today. We'll do a part 2 next rainy day. We heard it may rain here in southern Alabama for the next 3 days, even though I'm looking at somewhat sunny now, but everything's wet. If it rains tomorrow, the next day, we'll do a part 2 and we'll go from there. One of the next couple of shows, we will do another tennis racket giveaway. So be ready for that. The only thing that you need to do is hit the subscribe button before the next show. So next show, if you watch this later, which most of our coaching videos people watch long after we do them, don't forget to subscribe, and you can be like Blakely Prine that won a Babolat Pure Strike last show, right?
Yes.
So it does happen. So subscribe to do that, because during random giveaways, it has to be done before the show. So anyway, thank you much. Adios, and we will see you maybe tomorrow if it rains. Otherwise, be ready for a kind of spur of the moment show.
Adios.